Yo, what is up everybody? John from Tau Tactics here bringing you another video. Today we're going to be talking about the Tau versus Thousand Suns matchup. It's going to be the first in a series where we're going to do all of Mont'ka's matchups, what the key Tau and Thousand Suns units are going to be in the matchup, what the key strats and plays are for each army, and how Tau wins the matchup. At the end we'll be doing the giveaway for the Dark Strider model, so be sure to stick around for that, and let's just get right into the video. Alrighty, so the Thousand Suns key units in the matchup. First one is going to be Rubric Marines. Rubric Marines are really strong. They each have a flamer. They give a Cabal point because they have a sorcerer in the unit, and importantly, they reroll the wound roll if you're on an objective. If not, it's reroll once to wound, but it can be really strong, especially when a character is joined to it. So things like the Infernal Master has devastating wounds, so that pairs really well with the Rubric Marines rerolling the wound roll. So once you step anything on an objective, it's no longer Magnus that's just a threat, but also Rubric Marines with characters attached. They can really punch up super well, and again, they give that reroll wounds rule to any character that joins the unit. They get extra AP on critical wounds, so again, they're just really good at punching up onto things at objectives, so you just have to be really careful when you put like a vehicle like a Riptide or Hammerhead or Devilfish on a point, because that can really open them up to being turboed by a unit of Rubric Marines. Magnus, Big Maggie, he is the linchpin to the army. If you get a chance to kill Magnus, it can auto win you the game. That being said, be very careful if you decide to go for that line or not, because he can choose an aura to be -1 damage. He can blank a failed save with a CP, or he can use Cabal Rituals to do that. He can reroll a saving throw with Cabal points, and he can CP reroll a save. So that's just a lot of stacks of defensive buffs for an already tanky unit with a 3-up, 4-up, or just 2-up, 4-up, or 3-up, 4-up. Either way, he's very tanky. I believe it's 2-up. And he's capable of picking up 2 big units a turn, like a Riptide and a Hammerhead, Riptide and a Devilfish. He's very strong at doing secret missions, so that's something to keep in mind, because one of his other auras is +2 move, so he can give himself +2 move to me moving 16, and then using one of the Cabal Rituals, Temporal Surge, he can double move. So he can go 32 inches in a turn, and if he has Lord of Forbidden Lore on the table, the enhancement on one of his characters, he can then do it a third time. So the secret mission of getting on your opponent's home field if he's going second, is very achievable, so it's something that you need to really watch out for. Next, the Infernal Master. The Infernal Master has a 2d6 flamer, but it has dev wounds. And his special rule, importantly, is once per turn, he can flip a hit, wound, or saving throw to a 6. So he can both flip a wound roll to a 6 in his turn, and then flip a failed save to a 6 in your turn. So it makes him a little bit more tankier, and he can put an enhancement that gives him damage 2 on his flamer. It's called Arcane Vortex, to make his 2d6 flamer strength 7, AP 2 for 2. Then you add him to the Rubric Marines unit, and he's re-rolling all wounds against units on objectives. So the unit just becomes completely agnostic to what it's shooting, because this single Infernal Master is probably going to average 6 to 8 dev wounds per activation, realistically. If he rolls up and gets 11 shots or 10 shots, he can easily push that to 8 or 10. So it can be really gross. So this is a guy you need to be really, really careful around, because again, doesn't care if you're a Riptide, doesn't care if you're a Devilfish, it will just chew through vehicles like nothing. Doesn't care about your invuln on the Riptide, so another guy just to be careful of. Now the Exalted Sorcerer on disc, these guys will move 12, and a lot of the Cabal rituals, they do require line of sight. So he is an important aspect of getting to that line of sight, right? He moves 12, but he can get +2 move from Magnus. You could double move him. He can move 24 or 28. So he's just a fast infantry unit that moves through walls. He can spot things for like Doombolt or for Magnus to indirect with his big gun. So it's a way of keeping other damage dealers safe, and he also has a pretty solid D3 damage flamer. The last one on this list is the Mutalic Vortex Beast. So he helps shore up a big weakness for Thousand Suns, which is their ability to score primary. Just stick something on the point and say, hey, come deal with me. He's got a 5-up Inball, 5-up Feel No Pain, and he's got good shooting. He's got a 2d6 flamer. He's got a railgun shot that he can pop off with, and a mortal wound aura at the end of the movement phase. He can double the range of rituals, which is really good. So he can, make a Doom Bolt 36 inches instead of 18. So he can certainly be really strong. Both him and Magnus, you want to get the full hit rerolls on them as quickly as possible because that makes your damage output much more consistent into those types of targets. Otherwise, winning on 5s and 6s with Riptides is going to get pretty ugly pretty quickly. The last one honorable mention that I didn't include in here is Ahriman. Ahriman, you'll see him on a lot of lists as well. He gives his unit +1 to wound. He actually has decent melee as well. So the River Marines will be +1 to wound. And then he also, once per game, gives out a free ritual, which can be really important if you take away some Cabal points early to help him operate, the Thousand Suns player, operate as if he's still at full Cabal strength. Alrighty, so key Tau units. So first and foremost is the Riptide. The Riptide is great into many of the Thousand Suns units. There's a lot of T4 in the army. If you're able to proc the full hit rerolls on Magnus or Mutant Vortex Beasts, the 4 damage is really helpful, as well as the Sorcerers. I've also found that SMS on Hammerheads, Riptides, Broadsides, Devilfish is really helpful in this matchup because people aren't tending to use Rhinos as much, so you can really plink down a surprising amount of Rubric Marines or Thousand Suns Trash, which is really important to winning the matchup, is staying ahead in the resource battle and being able to hide and still shoot and kill 3-4 models a turn is really helpful. The next unit I wanted to talk about was the Broadsides. Now the reason that I think the Broadsides are really good here is because they have a decent volume of high damage shots into things like Magnus and Mutant Vortex Beasts. Now, them being able to come off from reserves and guarantee an activation into either one of those with the possibility of dev wounds is really helpful because the Thousand Suns strat to blank damage requires you to fail a save. So anytime you're able to get dev wounds through, they're going through no matter what. There's no way to reroll it. There's no way to blank the save. Same thing goes with the Riptides, right, with their devastating wounds ability once per game. So those are things to keep in mind when you're targeting Magnus. The more dev wounds, the better, really. Iron Hammerheads, they're really great into rubrics because they're going to be wounding on 2s with a guide from a guide from a stealth suit unit is really strong with them. Rerolling 1s to wound. They're great into rubrics, and like I said, anything that has full hit rerolls on it is a really great target. It'll punch up pretty well versus Magnus and the Mutant Vortex Beast. It's got the 2 Seeker missiles for the extra damage there, so it is a really strong piece into those types of units. Lastly, a little unorthodox, something I've been running in my list personally that I really like is the Pathfinder and Dark Strider combo. So the reason why I like this combo, this package, is one, you could put it in a Devilfish and scout it up to a staging point early, which is really great. Next is all their guns are all their guns are range 18, so you can still hit things like Mutant Vortex Beasts, Rubrics, Sorcerers without getting overwatched, which is a major weakness, and really the biggest weakness for Breachers. So in that case, you're getting +1 to wound with Dark Strider. You're going to have the 9 shots at Strength 8 AP 2 for 2. If you get a Stealth Suit unit guiding, you'll be hitting on 4s, rerolling 1s to hit, and then you'll be wounding with everything in their arsenal on 2s, rerolling 1s to wound. So anything you're hitting is going to have a really good chance of going through. I also like putting the extra AP on them to get all of the Pulse Carbine shots up to AP 1, no cover. And I've done the math on Unit Crunch. On average, they take out 8 out of a 10-man unit of Rubrics with the extra AP and Stealth Suits guiding. So some of the key strats for Thousand Suns are blanking damage, which we already talked about. Dev Wounds is the way to get through it. The extending range, so a great target for this is Magnus or Flamer units. So Magnus goes from 24-inch range to 33-inch range. Then he can also indirect with psychic weapons. Thankfully, they removed the ability to do this with Flamers, which has made it a little bit more palatable to play against. However, Magnus I found was the best target for it anyways. They also have a full hit rerolls, full wound reroll strat. They can make any of their strats 1 less CP for 6 Cabal points. So early on in the game, you might see this where they throw out a Sorcerer when they don't need to be spending all their Cabal points and let Magnus extend range and indirect with his big guns and take out a big piece from your army. Now that kind of gets me to my next point, which is it's essentially not worth playing around. I would say be careful pre-measuring with your army because you're going to pre-measure yourself way in the corner of your deployment zone, at some point the Thousand Suns player is going to have a lot of decision points as to where they want to be and what units they want to hit. So I would just say be careful because, again, they can double move, they can +2 move. One thing that is really important to know as the person playing the Thousand Suns player is they do have to declare all their rituals at the start of the shooting phase, or most of them at least. So, like re-rolling a failed save, they have to do that before you start declaring targets of where you're going to shoot. Lastly, 3 enhancements that you're going to see very often are Lord of Forbidden Lore, which lets them double up on ritual. Umberlefic Crystal, which is a once per game uppy downy. So in his command phase, he can pull a unit up, place back down 9 inches away from you. And then Arcane Vortex we talked about, which is typically put on an Infernal Master to make his 2d6 Flamer, Strength 7, AP2 for 2 damage. So our key strats in this matchup, in my opinion, are -1 damage in shooting. The reason being is all of Magnus's shots are 3 damage and D3 damage, so the -1 damage actually is really important. The most reliable way they're going to have to one-shot something like a Riptide is both hitting you with a Doom Bolt, which is the 18-inch range on a 2 through 5, D3 plus 3 mortals, on a 6, D3 plus 6 mortals. And yeah, being able to play around that, having 2 CP in the bank is really critical to the matchup for your things like Hammerheads, Devilfish. It just really skews the math in our favor and causes more of a resource commitment from a Thousand Suns player, which is what we want. We want more units out. We want you to have to show a Sorcerer to give us, or to do a Doom Bolt. We want you to have to put your Mutilith Vortex Beast in the open, or near Magnus at least, so then when he's extending the range for Cabal rituals, he is putting more resources out there in the open. The next strat is full hit rerolls, so any of their tough stuff you want to get full hit rerolls on. If there's a 10-man unit with a character attached that has any of those enhancements, you want to get full hit rerolls on those guys. And then lastly, extra AP. Because most of the Rubric Marines have a 3-up, 5-up, the Infernal Master, I believe, has a 3-up, 5-up as well. The extra AP does help a lot, punching up into those units and making sure that they're on their 5-up invulns. Next, I found this to be really good in this matchup, which is the Scout 6 enhancement. Now, it's not mandatory for all tile lists. I personally am running in mine because I found that it allows me to stage as if it's my first turn with Riptides and Hammerheads. You know, I'm running right now 4 Devilfish chassis, 3 Riptides, so it can get a little busy in the backfield, so it allows me to kind of move out a little bit. Same thing with the Dark Strider unit. I get to put in a Devilfish and scout it up a little bit. As well as things like Krutoks, Piranhas, Pathfinders, anything that can already have a board presence early because they don't have any infiltrators gives us an advantage on secondary scoring, which we really want to push that pressure as far as scoring is concerned and give the absolute minimum units possible. The reason being is they have to respond, and Tau has so many trading pieces that typically over time, if we're playing a 1-for-1 trade, we're going to win that battle. The other component of that is SMS, right? So being able to just whittle down his scoring units while you're scoring with your scoring pieces puts a lot of pressure on the opponent to start making things happen. Strat reserves, I like putting like a Hammerhead, or if you're running broadsides, a broadside unit in reserves, so that when he does pop out with Magnus or Mutilith Vortex Beast, you have a clean shot at him. How does Tau win this matchup? How does Mont'ka win the matchup? So my suggestion, my opinion, and I could be wrong, so feel free, if you have better ideas, put them in the comments down below. By no means am I the absolute expert on this matchup. I've played it a few times. This is my personal opinion. Eliminate Cabal points as early as you can. Once you start to skew their math of how many Cabal points they can use, you're really eliminating a resource from them that's how they've been so good, right? So eliminating Cabal points early, so that is any of the Infernal Masters, Exalted Sorcerers, obviously Magnus, like we said, will just pretty much win you the game. But try to full kill units. There are Cabal points in the Rubric Marine squad. They have a Sorcerer in there, so it gives up 1 Cabal point. Like I said, forward deploy for early board control, scout up those Piranhas into safe spots, scout up the Krutoks, scout the Devilfish, scout a couple Riptides, and really maximize secondary scoring as best as you can. I would personally, now I have a hard time saying this because you do want to keep CP early in the game, but personally, if I get 2 dead draws on turn 1 with in secondaries, I might spend 1 to get rid of 1. Reason being is because I already have so many units in the midboard, and potentially units like piranhas that can get to the backfield, I feel like that is a really good opportunity to CP redraw secondary because I have so much potential on the board to score a lot of the secondaries that exist. So again, just maximize secondary scoring, kill their cheap units, force them to start doing actions and whatnot, or not scoring actions with their sorcerers, their damage dealers. That's another win condition. And then just be careful about secret missions, right? Because Magnus, one of them is get your warlord on your opponent's objective and hold it. If they're going second, they can move Magnus, and they have the double up a ritual enhancement on the board. They can move Magnus. They can temporal surge double move twice, which means Magnus can move 16, 32, I believe 48 inches, and get on your home field without even thinking twice. You want to ring your home field objective at the end of the game. You want to do your best to block out Magnus because, like I said before, he can score 35 points realistically turn 4 just on primary. That's very realistic for that win condition. Alright everybody, that is going to do it for today's video. Thank you for tuning in. I very much appreciate it. Please shoot me a like, comment, subscribe. We're going to be doing at least one of these matchup videos per week. Probably going to start including some special guests, some faction specialists to give their take on the matchup as well, which I think will be really interesting to see. And yeah, let me know what you think. Is there anything that I missed about the matchup? Any matchups that you'd like to see? I'm thinking Blood Angels and Drukhari next. So we'll see what happens. And as far as our giveaway winner, we have FTG Semper Fi. FTG Semper Fi, congratulations, you just won a new Darkstrider model. Please reach out to me at John Kilco on Discord. Add me there, and we can figure out the details. But thanks again, everybody, for all the support. I really appreciate it. I will catch you in the next one. Peace.